Why you suck at Total War, reason number 9. And this will be the final reason. You never learn. That's right, you've spent hundreds of hours in Total War games, but you don't know the difference between a Bleak Sword and a Black Orc. The defining attribute to be any good at Total War is knowledge. It doesn't matter if your micro isn't the fastest in the world, or you can't build the perfect army composition or execute tactics at the perfect time. All that can be made up for by a good bit of knowledge. Now, perhaps you're one of those players that takes advantages of the game's freedoms and exploits them to the point of making the game far too easy for you to really need to think about anything, such as bringing an army of artillery, goon squadding the enemy lord to assassinate him at the start of the battle to make it easier to rout the rest of his army, bringing a ridiculously unbalanced and unfair army that your enemy is very, very unlikely to have any kind of counter for all of the ridiculousness that you've brought. Or maybe you like to abuse magic and abilities to assassinate lords, heroes and important units absurdly quickly. And any other cheesy tactic you can think of. And I know, the game technically allows all this stuff, so it's not necessarily wrong, as some people would like to argue, but the trouble with it is that it's kind of an easy route to victory. You don't have to learn all the matchups and all of your units and certain tactics and when to use them. You can get away with being a little bit lazy and making use of that good old exploit that you've found. And you ask anyone that plays a lot of quick battles, well, what do you notice about all these cheesy players? They'll probably say, well, they're just not actually any good at the game. They never took the time to learn to play the game properly, so they resort to the cheesy tactics to try and get wins. When if they just sat down and actually tried to practice and get better, they could. Anyone can do it. You don't have to be anything special to be good at Total War. Knowledge is honestly the most important factor. So I advise you, whether you play campaign or multiplayer, take the harder roads. Don't bring armies of artillery. Don't bring unbalanced armies that the AI or a human player just can't deal with. Try and fight on a fair playing field and learn how to win your battles. And hey, I know, who the hell am I to tell you how to play your game? You paid for it, you play it however you want, in single player. If you want to steamroll the AI in a campaign and win that way and you enjoy that, have at it. Your game, you do what you like. But don't expect to get any better at Total War. You'll learn nothing by simply clicking attack orders for artillery and watching them destroy the enemy from afar. Thankfully in quick battles there are some rules to stop some of this cheese happening, but there definitely is still too much of it going on. So I advise, have some testicles and play the game properly. You'll learn a hell of a lot more. Now to an exercise of sorts, mostly for newer players, but more experienced players could gain from this as well. Go ahead and try and set this battle up. So I'm just going to play it on a simple, pretty flat map with medium funds so that the army isn't too big and there isn't too much for us to manage. Normal battle difficulty. We're going to play as the Empire. Go ahead and build yourself this simple little army which is fairly balanced. General of the Empire, we've got a light wizard with his ability removed, and then only spells he has is Banishment, Net of Amantok and Far's Protection. So 3 very different spells that you can try to learn to use at the right time. And yeah, build this army. A little bit of money left. You can change things around a little bit if you want to, but for the most part, bring this balanced army and then put your opponent as the Dark Elves and build this army. A similar thing, a balanced, well-rounded army. Going to have a Shadow Priest with just some of her spells removed just to save the money. It doesn't really matter too much which ones are which. These are the enemy spells, of course. And yeah, build these 2 armies and we're just going to fight these against each other. And we can practice everything that you've hopefully learned in these Why You Suck videos. So it's simply a case of fighting this battle, finding a way to win it, and not only that, but winning it well. And it's going to rely on the good application of all your units. You've got a variety of different anti-large units, some with armor piercing, some without. The same with your missiles, the same with your cavalry. So you're going to have to apply the correct ones in the right place to get the best results. So it's a good way to practice. You could set up in a simple formation like this. Swordman front line, spears on the edges, cavalry on the edges, missiles behind, etc. You probably already know about this stuff if you've watched these other videos. So set yourself up however you like, sort your groups out, sort your units out, put it in a different formation from this if you want to, and go ahead and fight the battle. If you want to, if you're really new and you're really struggling, fight it in slow motion and just watch everything that's happening. Watch who your units are about to engage with, ask if it's a good idea to fight them or not. If it's not, try and find a solution to that fighting problem. Like right here, my Reichsguard on the right are not well matched against Cold One Knights who are charging towards them, so I'm going to pull them back behind the spears, and those knights are going to have to go through the spears to get to my cavalry. Cold One Knights are armor piercing and anti-large. I don't want my Reichsguard fighting them. And you can start to work on everything that we've talked about. Protecting your flanks, pushing on the enemy's flanks, dealing with ranged units, flying units, getting the right matchups, learning to use your groups and get that into habit. Like I say, all the stuff I've already talked about. So with this battle, I'm going to bring my spearmen back to protect my right side. I've got my demigryphs right around the back to try and get after their missiles. I'm trying to shoot their missiles as well. I need to get my elite infantry, the great swords, into theirs, the Haganeth executioners. I could do a little flanking on this left side. Keep the demigryphs moving, keep the cavalry coming, keep the pressure on those backline units. There's these flying units coming in. Going to use my magic, net them and blast them. That will get rid of those, hopefully. The cold ones are coming up behind me, so I'm going to bring my halberds back. Going to get some hammer and anvil now with the Reichsguard. So hopefully you can see all the stuff I've been talking about in action here. Try to execute similar things yourself and try to win the battle. And if you don't, the most important thing, if you don't win the battle, try again. Just keep trying until you win the battle. Honestly, you'll start to learn everything that's going on. And you can try out different means of dealing with different units. Like the Haganeth executioners, I could just charge my greatswords in, or I could try and shoot them first with handgunners, or charge them with my demigryphs first to bring them down a bit. So find different ways of dealing with the units and see what happens, and learn all these different ways to deal with different things. If you learn how to deal with Haganeth executioners and elite heavy infantry, you'll know that you can deal the same way with other elite heavy infantry, Black Orcs, Chosen, greatswords, whatever. There are similar units across most factions. And then make sure to look at your kill cards as well. Look which units were doing good work. How much did you pay for them? Did you get the value for money? Were they worth it? Did you not use them very well? Could you have done it better? Which brings me to a further point of save your replays and then watch them back and look what happened. Perhaps one of your units got absolutely destroyed and you have no idea how or what happened to them. Go back, watch the replay and find out why it happened. Think about how you could not let that happen in the future. Try to identify any mistakes you've made. Like here, I've let my swordsmen fight executioners. They were never going to win that battle. They should not be fighting them. I should have brought my greatswords over sooner. I could see them coming a mile away. I should have had my greatswords there ready to meet them. Now I'm going to lose a unit of Empire swordsmen. In the middle here, I've got one unit of swordsmen fighting 3 units. They're definitely going to lose. I should have bolstered that middle so that it doesn't break and I have a hole in my front line. So save your replays and try to figure out for yourself how you won or how you lost. A lot of the top players are as good as they are because they've played so many online battles, they've seen it all before. They know how well their particular unit is going to do against a particular enemy unit, and they'll know whether to engage them or not. Or they'll know how to deal with a certain situation or tactic that the enemy may be trying to pull. They've got experience in it, they learned how to deal with it. There is no secret manual you can quickly learn all this stuff with. You need to just play the game and learn it a lot. You can watch all my guides a million times and maybe that'll help, but the best way to acquire that knowledge is to just play the game a lot and pay attention. Learn why you're winning and why you're losing. Hopefully that makes some sense, and the best way to do this is of course by playing the game fairly and properly. Don't use exploits and bring 5 units of artillery. Bring 1 or 2, take out their strong units, use them tactically, and then use the rest of your army tactically to actually win the battle. This, my friends, is the secret to Total War success. Now, in terms of getting to know a lot of this knowledge, it's going to start really, I think, with learning one faction and learning them well. Pick whichever one you like, whoever your favourite is, and start to get to know their roster and everything about them. Once you get to know this faction really well, you can start to relate other factions back to this faction. So for example, in the Greenskin army, if I want some armor piercing units, I could go with Black Orcs, I could go with the Rusty Arrows, I could bring some of the cavalry, that's all armor piercing, I could bring Squigs or Trolls. I know if I want some armor piercing, which units are going to be good for that. If I want some high damage output, I could go for Savage Orcs, Savage Orc Big Uns, Black Orcs or Crimson Killers. Maybe I want some anti-large, I could go with the Broken Tusk Mob or my Orc Ball Boy Big Uns. My Savage Orc Big Uns again, maybe some missile units, great for taking down large. So getting to know the entire faction and knowing what every unit is capable of is step 1, I think. So pick your favourite faction and do this. And another great little exercise, I think, to learn the factions, and this is something that I used to do in Total War Warhammer 1 when it came out to help me learn all the units, is auto-generate an army. Just hit the auto-gen button and then play with whatever you get. Same with whatever your enemy faction is. Try it out against different enemy factions and just learn how to beat that enemy army with what you've got. It'll force you to be adaptable, which is one of the big points I made earlier in this series. You need to be able to work with what you've got. Maybe you don't have the perfect army for beating the enemies, but you can usually make it work somehow. And in this process, you will learn how to use all of your units and what they're all capable of. You may lose this battle many times, but just keep trying and keep trying out different ways of approaching it. Eventually you'll find one that works, and you'll probably have learned a lot along the way. And again, save your replays, check out what went on. Maybe one of your top units got thoroughly destroyed all of a sudden, you have no idea how it happened. Go back to the replay and have a look, learn what happened. And as I said before, check the unit cards at the end to see who got the most kills, who was slacking, who was lacking, who was performing like a champ. And let me quickly explain the multiplayer scene, as I get a lot of questions about what the difference is between quick battles, multiplayer battles, etc. Quick battles is the ranked ladder mode. This is where you'll search to find an opponent. It will randomly find you one, could be anyone, could be the number 1 player on the leaderboard or the 50,000th player on the leaderboard. It's a bit silly that there's no real system, but you could play this in 2v2s, you can invite friends and you can play on the ranked ladder match. Now the good thing about this is that there are some rules in place to stop some cheesy stuff happening, which is good, and you generally find the better players in quick battles rather than in multiplayer battles. Maps and funds and things can't be chosen, but do be aware there are still plenty of cheesy players in quick battles. And then you have multiplayer battles, which is custom lobbies which anyone can make, and they can kind of set the rules for themselves. They can set the funds, how many players, what map it is, whatever you like. And it's generally filled a bit more with less experienced or newer players, so it's a little bit easier going if you want to get into it. And as there's no kind of rule enforcement in these lobbies, it does open it up to being a little bit more cheesy. You might end up facing an army of chariots, something that can't happen in quick battles. But perhaps you're looking to get into online battles. Perhaps you're a little bit afraid. I know I get a lot of people saying they're too afraid to try multiplayer battles. They want to try it, but they're too afraid to face another person. Just get in there. There really is no shortcut to it. Try multiplayer battles, like I say, try playing some friends if you've got them. Come onto my Discord even, link is in the description. We've got a lot of people who play on there. Some people will be willing to help you if you're new. 2v2s or 3v3s are another great way to get into multiplayer online because there's less pressure on you because you have a partner and an ally. It makes it feel a little bit more relaxed than a straight up one-on-one where the pressure is on for you to win. So if you want to get into online battles but you've been a little bit too afraid, just give it a go. Like I say, come to my Discord. We've got a lot of people who play on there and we play fairly. We have rules on my Discord. If anyone is cheesing, they will be kicked the fuck out. So yeah, have a go at online. Honestly, Total War is better played against other human players most of the time because the AI is a little bit dumb. You'll get a much better challenge from a human player, and this will in turn make you even better at the game. And with that, I think we shall conclude this here Why You Suck series. Here you can see all the points I've made. Maybe screenshot this, keep it with you while you play Total War. Try to remember to do all this stuff, try to remember to work on this stuff, try and improve it, and you will indeed become better at Total War. It's possible for anyone. Just engage your damn brain. This is a strategy game after all. It requires thinking. Barreling your entire army straight into the enemy army without trying to flank them or use any tactics or thinking about matchups is going to get you nowhere. And while Total War's in-game tutorials are never any good, everything is explained in tooltips. Don't be afraid to mouse over something, read what it says and try to figure out exactly how that fits into the game. Because that is one thing they tend to do pretty well. And honestly, this series is ending on number 9 because I have nothing else to say. I don't know what else to tell you to help you to get any better at Total War. All my other guides cover everything I haven't said in these videos, so check them all out, learn, absorb, and practice. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future. Oh shit!